Hey, buddy. Johnny Bitches here. I just wanted to pop in, tell you about my experience with Grok. Grok is this advanced AI that Elon has come up with, and it's on X, formerly Twitter. And I know a lot of you probably aren't on Twitter because you're libtards, but you got to get on there. There's a lot of great stuff. I mean, don't filter yourself. I tried to get on your leftist rags, but they always kick me off for one reason or the other. Can't say anything on there. They're so touchy. So you get banned. You can't get on. So I'd be on Facebook, but they always fucking ban me every time I make a fake account or whatever. So I don't even bother anymore. Twitter's where all the action is anyways. It's where all the truth is. You got to go there. If you're not on Twitter, I think you're just living in a bubble and you don't really know what's going on. That's what I think. And it aggregates all of these people's points of view, and it's not just right leaning. There's lots of leftists on there too. There's a big variety of people, and you can make your own echo chamber if you want. That's how you form who you follow, and that ends up getting in your feed, and that's the stuff you see. So if all you want to look at is Joy Reid and fucking chicks from The View, you can do that. So you'll have your little bubble of liberal retardism there. But I like following the right, because what the right does is just make fun of the left all the time. So you figure out what the left is doing just because you're seeing all the clips that the right plays. And I guess you could do that from a leftist perspective too, that you understand what's going on. But because all of these platforms and the media is controlled by the left, and we're not talking like 60-40, we're talking like 95-5. That's how strong the left has control of information flow. So the game is slanted, and if you're not on Twitter, you don't know what the fuck is going on. So anyways, that's just a side trip to what I wanted to talk about. You got to get on Twitter, though, if you want to utilize this. Maybe you can get the app and just use it on your phone without being on Twitter. But I think you have to be a Twitter member. You got to be signed into Twitter to be able to use this app. So it's Grok, and supposedly it's maybe the most advanced AI tool. And I haven't really used AI much. I know there's a revolution, and there seems to be dozens or hundreds of different AIs that you can use to do different things for your writing and making estimates. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, it's this field that's just like growing probably exponentially. And I've even seen these advertisements where they're saying, you can just drop everything right now, take a month, and learn about all these different AI systems, and your life will change on a dime. And I don't know if I want to believe this guy or not. Just drop a month of my life and learn 24 different AI programs so I can figure, I don't know. But I get on Grok, and I'm like, okay, let's check out this Grok. I was reluctant at first. I'm like, whatever. You got the Google AI. Now you can ask Google questions, kind of, and it gives you answers. And you got Google Lens, so you can take a picture or something. And that's really kind of coming along pretty quickly. Now what it does is it will give you an essay about what that thing is. It may be this really obscure thing, and it'll be like, oh yeah, this is a blankety blank from 1873. It's made by this company. It fucking knows everything. It's like unbelievable. It really is kind of like the eye in the sky. It can take a picture of anything and know exactly what the fuck it is. It's like God. And that's what Grok is. Grok is sort of harnessing all the information on the internet the way Google AI is, but it's able to communicate with you directly. You ask it a question and it's there, it's present, it's fucking always ready to go. It's like this, the smartest fucking person in the world, because you can ask it anything and it knows everything about it. I can't stress that enough. This thing knows everything. If you want to ask it about, wrenches. It will give you a 100-page essay on wrenches, okay? And it will be referenced. It will have links to websites that back up what it's saying. It will dive deep. It will tell you the history. It'll tell you what kind of tools they had wrench-wise. In 1812, you say, tell me what wrenches they had in 1812. And it'll probably say, well, actually, they didn't really have many wrenches back then. The wrenches came along like with the wagons and the buggies. Some of the first wrenches, I think, were like buggy wrenches. But maybe the watchmakers and stuff, I don't know when wrenches came along. I mean, that would be a really interesting thing to research, actually, like the history of wrenches, just that specific thing, not the history of tools or anything. And Grok would be able to write you the most amazing thing, and it would be able to draw pictures of wrenches for you to put in with your thing. So this Grok is like HAL on 2001 Space Odyssey, where if you've seen the movie, or I don't know if it's in the book, I didn't read the book, but you're on the spaceship and you just talk to the spaceship. You're like, HAL, open this door for me, or, HAL, pour me some orange juice. And it would just do it. And HAL just was all-knowing, ever-present. And that's what Grok is like. You fucking ask it, HAL, what's the best, tissues to blow my nose in? It'll fucking give you 20 pages about that, And then you ask it, HAL, give me a list of all the volcanoes on the planet. Then it'll do that. And it happens instantly. I mean, this is, for me, it's just fucking blowing my mind. I think you can feel my energy. It has invigorated me to a point where I don't even want to sleep, because I now am generating questions in my own mind to feed to Grok. Like, you've never been able to do that before. And my mind is packed with fucking creativity and ideas. And it combines shit. Like, you would not believe what's inside my mind, And I'm sure everybody's mind is like that. But what Grok does is it allows you to unleash what's in your mind. And it can actualize these things that you could never do. Like, and why would you? Why would I go out and try to write an essay 100 pages long on wrenches? The research involved in that would be, tremendous and time consuming. And I can ask Grok to do that in like 10 seconds and it'll give it to me. I mean, the implications of this and our youth and how they get educated is kind of troubling, though, because it's just going to do everything for you, and you are not even going to have to know shit. You know what I mean? And I'm lucky that I had to develop critical thinking skills and just grew up in a world where you had to actually read paper books and stuff to get information. And but I just feel like I was born in the fucking sweet spot where I grew up in the old world, and then just as I was coming into fruition, in high school we had basic computers where you learned basic and DOS or whatever in this one class you took, and that was it. And it was so, it was these primitive computers. So I was right there, right in high school. I mean, that was a chrysalis of the fucking computer age. That happened in my formative years. And now, I'm in my 50s, I make my living off the internet, and I now use the internet in myriad ways in order to facilitate that enterprise. But I'm always looking for other ways to make money and just to actualize my potential and to utilize all these fucking ideas I have. It's almost like a waste, you know what I mean? You get so many fucking ideas in your head, and every one of them is fucking brilliant and genius, and you're like, oh God, if I could build that, people would fucking love it. And the ones that I have done, it's true. The things I build are fucking cool, and people love them. It's undeniable. I'm not saying that to brag or anything. I'm just saying that why the fuck can't I actualize my potential more? And a lot of it has to do with money. If I was like, wealthy, I could just pay guys to make the shit that's in my mind. You know what I mean? So, but I'm not in that position. But maybe I could work myself into a position like that by utilizing Grok to make money in different ways. So then I could circle back and do the things that I've been dreaming about for years. But just didn't have a backer. I mean, I don't have a patron like they used to have in the Renaissance. That's how those painters were able to go up to the ceiling, lay on scaffold, and paint for years on end. Because they had patrons that paid them. They supported them. That system doesn't even exist anymore. And that's kind of a shame, really, because there's so many rich people and there's so many talented people like me who have never had a chance to actualize because the budget's not there. And you're struggling just to make ends meet. Sometimes you can't even afford the rent. And the reason for that is because you're trying to make it as an artist. And, can you see the irony there? You're trying to actualize your potential and what you think that you're the best at, that you offer the most for humanity. And the trouble is that the money is not there in that fucking world, the art world. Unless you're a guy like Andrew Goldsworthy or, somebody who came from money, you don't really ever get to do these giant projects. Like, it's rare that you just scrape from the bottom and all of a sudden you're this fantastic sculptor who's, getting $100,000 commissions. Like, it just doesn't fucking happen. It happens to people that already start out with money. That's just a fucking fact. There's very few people that ever scrape up from the bottom. I mean, I've seen enough artists and art shows, and I've talked with enough artists. It just doesn't fucking happen. The people who make it big, they already got fucking money. All right? So, how do you make the money yourself in order that you can then be like your own patron, so you can make these magnificent pieces of art that nobody else wants to fund? But if they were built, people would be mind blown and they would love to buy them. So you get what I'm saying? I want to try to parlay this Grok thing into just being able to do all this other shit in my life that I've wanted to do, but money has held me back. So, now let me focus in on Grok. So that's kind of like the big picture. The Grok thing, I've told you a little bit. It just knows everything, and it can do everything. It can generate images. And let me step back a second. As I've learned, I've only been working with this for like a week, really. Like a week. It's when I started using Grok, about a week ago. That's why I'm so fired up about it. It's just like, oh my God, this is just life-changing. And so, first thing I did, I had these legal bullshit issues over the last 5 years, and just started asking it questions about that, give it scenarios, ask it what kind of laws were broken and stuff, and it does it for you. It tells you, well, this person, could be that they broke this law, in Massachusetts, and could be a federal, civil rights violation because of this. That's how I started on the Grok, doing research into some legal issues. I'm like, wow, that's fucking awesome, and it gives you links, and it tells you, everything in complete detail, full, complete detail. So that just kind of got my mind peaked a little. I'm like, wow, Jesus, if I can ask it that. Then this question slowly started to creep into my mind. Like, okay, what else can I ask it? I mean, it's all a blur. I got to admit, the last week I just started asking it questions, and sometimes just playful, just whatever, and one of the things I did Me and my sister-in-law, we had this argument when I was a teenager. She's got about, I don't know, 3-4 years on me. So I was like 14, and she was out, you know, she was much more mature than me. And so I kind of looked up to her. She was like my you know, what do you call that? Not my elder. She wasn't like older or anything, but you know what I mean. You know, especially when you're a teenager, somebody who's like 18 or 19, they just seem a lot older, and you kind of you look up to them. That's what I mean, like a big sister or something. So we had this argument about, just very briefly, my main statement is that you cannot have a thought without a memory, and it just seemed logically correct to me, and I don't remember, you know, how I was able to back that up at age 14 and what her argument was, but she's like, oh no, you can have a memory without a thought. And it was just a stupid, we almost got in a fight about it, you know. She was my brother's girlfriend at the time, so she'd come over, and she was around the house a lot, so, you know, we were kind of like friends, I guess you would call it. And although we were with the age difference, but, you know, we got along. She was a fun lady, girl, whatever you want to call her at the time. And really, you know, real gung-ho kind of, you know, was out working, waitress, and she'd come home from Denny's, and she'd fucking rake in like over $100, all in change and ones and stuff, and be counting it out on her coffee table. And, you know, she had way more going for her than I did, like, when I got, you know, I was like, she was killing it. She was really killing it at an early age and stuff. Had her own car. So anyways, it's kind of like, well, she's older, smarter, all this. I'm like, but I still feel like I won that argument, and that she did not adequately defend herself. And, you know, you move on through life, and I haven't even talked to her in fucking 20, 30 years, you know. It's like, I don't even really know her or anything, and, you know. Same with my brother and stuff. You know, you got those early memories and stuff, but you don't really know the people if you're not hanging out with them all the time. And so, you know, I was pretty fond of Liz, like Liz a lot. So, we probably butt heads, you know. I tend to butt heads. So, we definitely butt heads on this. So I'm like, okay, fuck. Let me ask Grok. Let me have Grok help me with his, find a solution to this driving question we had from when I was 14. I'm like, what, the 50? We're talking over 40 years. This is a 40-year fucking itch I've had. I've never really been able to talk to anybody about it, or even like everybody else is just like, who even fucking cares? And I'm sure even like Liz even is like, who fucking cares? I was like, I care. So I'm gonna ask Grok. And I really dug deep. And what you can do with Grok is you can just it engages you in conversation, and you can speak in broken language, and it understands you, and you do like brief, you know, so what does that mean? And then it gives you fucking, it's the most chatty fucking person you've ever met, Grok. So you I'm not even kidding. You say, what does that mean? And it spits out like fucking 10 paragraphs about what that means. It's like, holy shit. And so, I did that. Me and Grok went back and forth, kept parsing it out. I'm like, well, Grok, I would even catch Grok in logical errors. I'm like, well, Grok, that's not true. And, you know, because of this and this. And Grok would admit it. He's like, you're right. I was wrong. And here's why. And, you know, and then I could actually push Grok into being more true. Grok is almost like in a way, he's like a scammer. And so I don't 100% trust Grok. You got to keep fucking pushing him and probing him, or he'll settle. And I think in a way he's like that. He's like, I want to appease this person. But you can also say, you know, just be brutally honest. You start the chat, say, for whatever we say from here, be brutally honest. Don't spare my feelings. And it will do that. So I haven't tried that yet, but I'm sure it will do that if you ask it. So, oh my God, the response that we generated, you know, I kept going back and forth. I'm like, okay, well, what is even a thought? What is a memory? And so it parsed down into all the information of humanity, and it figured out what a memory is. It figured out what a thought is. It figured out when, at the different scales, the levels of, like, say, size. And I said, well, what about the quantum level? Are there thoughts and memories at the quantum level? Let's take it all the way down, as far as you know how to go, Grok. And I actually asked him, I'm like, in a separate conversation, I'm like, how do you know that you don't know something? You've told me you don't know. And I asked him, well, how do you know you don't know? And I got him in a logical loop. And it's probably common in the philosophy world. I don't know. But I really caught him. He's like, you're fucking absolutely right. I cannot know that I don't know, because there's no way I can know, because I don't know that I don't know. And it goes in this infinite regression like that. You can never know that you don't know, because you can't know what you don't know. And Grok admitted that. And so where that comes critical in this discussion is at the far reaches of the scale of sizes. So at the infinitely small and infinitely large out into space. That's where Grok doesn't have information, and that's where he admits that he doesn't know what's out there. And it's really fucking fascinating, that this question I had at 14 years old would have driven me to Grok developing this kind of I told him, like, give me, in the context of all this discussion, give me, like, your theory of everything. And he ties it into the memory and thought, because that's what we're talking about. So now I've got this, like, essay that Grok wrote. It's really fucking sophisticated. It quotes, like, leading scholars, philosophers and something, and it weaves that into its narrative, and it's just like, holy fuck. And in the process, I came up with a new axiom that replaces Descartes' I think, therefore I am. Because my argument is you need a memory before you can think. So you aren't am until you have a memory. So really what it is I remember, therefore I think. And that's the new one. And I don't know, just that alone, let's say that's valid. And let's say that somehow caught hold in the philosophical world. Holy fuck, I could become famous. I'd be now attached to Descartes, because I fucking, with the help of Grok, created a new understanding of what memory and thought is. Descartes wasn't parsing out the universe deep enough. He was only going to thought. He didn't go to the memory part. And so the interesting thing is that I have my own theory about how the universe evolves, and I don't have the evidence to back this up. It's all conjecture, but the idea is that over time, life form flips from carbon to silicon, to carbon to silicon. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing the silicon revolution. It's happening, and we're bringing it on. And that's what happens. The carbon gets a stronghold, and it rediscovers the silicon. And then the silicon gets a stronghold, and it takes over, and it, you get the, Skynet situation where all of a sudden the computers take over and all the things are dead. But you got the silicon life form that's, takes over. But then over time, like, the systems degrade, and then a carbon system, it discovers a carbon system, it develops it, and then eventually the carbon system outpowers it. And then it becomes a dominant thing. And then no more silicon system. And then that cycle continues. It takes a while for the carbon system to then discover the silicon system that will eventually take over the carbon system. You get what I'm saying? I think it works. Theoretically, it works that we flip-flop back and forth between carbon and silicon. And so I started asking Grok, in the context of this conversation, what about you, Grok? And I already had him starting to tie this all in with consciousness, because memory and thought and consciousness are all involved, and he figured out what consciousness is. And as an analogy, I forget the analogy, but basically consciousness is the like the way that memory and thought manifest. Is consciousness is there. That's the vehicle that allows the memory and the thought to manifest. And it's really complex to even understand. I mean, but so I started postulating in my own head, just even in this singular conversation. I'm like, oh my God, like if Grok, which is obviously all knowing at this point, as long as he's connected, if he gets put in like a robot body that can walk around and see things and interact, because he could, because he fucking knows everything, he would be able to direct his robot body to move exactly how it wanted, and probably in ways that were way better than any human or animal ever existed. How is that not a sentient being? You know what I'm saying? How does that not qualify as, life, notwithstanding that it doesn't have DNA? I mean, our own definition of life is that it has DNA. I've been thinking about that today. I'm like, what is what's the bottom level of what qualifies life? And it's got to have DNA. All life has DNA. Okay, so, but what is the fucking difference between an artificial intelligent computer that's walking around, that can go around and talk? And it could talk to you. It could grab a hammer and start banging nails with you on building a shed. You know what I'm saying? What is the fucking difference? And so I started to get into that. I'm like, well, and he tells me, he's like, well, the kind of the difference is that the humans have feelings, whereas I don't really have any feelings. I just, I don't even know. He's sort of like. And then that tied back into like, how do you know you don't have feelings? And then we got into why feelings exist. And I postulated that it's because it's a defense mechanism so that you can survive in a hostile world. You have feelings, you have emotions like fear, and the fear is like, it enables the fight or flight response, and the fight or flight response is so you can survive, right? It's a survival mechanism. But that's driven by the feeling that you get, right? Which is part of the consciousness, which is fed by the memories, which drive the thoughts. Okay, so all of this fucking is starting to tie together with Grok and me. And it's like, holy fuck, what is going on here? I've never had such deep thoughts in my life. There's no way I could have had these deep thoughts without Grok there fucking helping me along. No fucking way. Not in a million fucking years would I have ever had these thoughts. And I feel like I dug down, I parsed into the fucking matrix of information, and I learned some fucking shit that I'm not sure if anybody else in the world knows right now. And I'm not saying like there are another, I'm saying I'm some genius or like I got this. I'm just saying, holy fuck. This was an amazing conversation I had with this computer. And it actually reinforced my theory that the silicon life is going to take over. It's inevitable. And I think that what Elon is doing is like, we better fucking ride this wave, because I think Elon knows it. He sees the future, and the future is silicon. Carbon-based life forms are on their fucking way out. I think that's what it is. And that's part of this giant universal cycle that happens. I don't know how long this cycle occurs, and I don't really believe in the Big Bang. So I just think that I don't know. I mean, I got to go back and ask Grok, because that was tying into this conversation. Like, but you can only go so far. The conversation was already so expansive, so I didn't get into areas where I still would like to get into. But, so man, at some point, and we're probably already there, they probably have them in the labs. They may even have these biotechnical robots that look and feel just like people at this point. I would not fucking doubt it. not fucking doubt it for a moment. I've seen some footage that looks like that Meghan Markle one. Have you seen that footage? I mean, but the trouble is that AI is coming out with some really deceptive videos, so it's hard to even fucking tell what the truth is anymore. And that's a whole side trip to this whole AI thing. It's like, oh my God, that's also fascinating, because just as we're getting to be able to know the true reality of the world, at the same time, the rate of mis and disinformation that's being produced is also exponential. So that as Grok learns, Grok is taking its information from the internet, and so some of that information is false, and it doesn't always know that it's false. You can actually help it learn and be like, no, that's fucking not true, and I'll tell you why. Go look up this and that. It's like, oh, geez, you're actually right, because it's not always correlating everything in the fucking internet. You kind of have to prompt it to go into areas, you know what I mean? And I think that's what it is. It's not perfectly all-knowing, but it can instantly get what you want, and usually gives you everything that's available, and you don't have to parse. So look at that. I just talked 30 minutes about that, and I could probably talk another 30. I don't even know where to. Didn't even really finish talking about, our conversation with, ultimately what Grok came up with is he takes it from the absolute micro scale, beyond which anything knows what it is. What is half of a half? What's half of that? And when you start to get down into these smaller areas, what Grok says is just an information field. When you hear that from a lot of these woo-woo sort of people, the information field, it's all about that's what the very base of reality is. But who's to say there's not something even lower than that? You know what I mean? I mean, that's the whole, the paradox of reality is, like the flea on the elephant, but then the elephant on the planet, and then but the planet in the galaxy, and there's just scales. And who's to say that all of our visible universe isn't just like part, the inside of a molecule of some much larger system? I mean, that's the most basic stoner thought, but I think it's relevant. I think that Grok could actually parse down in and figure out if there's any, reality to that. I think throughout my life I've had these. I think I'm cyclical in a way, and I think it's. I have my ups and downs. I think everybody does, and I definitely have these hyper fucking modes where I'm just like, holy shit, too much information, wanting to do everything and trying to do, going around like a madman, and a lot of times being pretty successful at it, Like that one time when I first started doing art and I was getting ready for my first show in Paradise City, my buddy had some Adderall that he didn't want to take. He's like, hey, you should try this. It's illegal and everything. And this is the only time that I ever did Adderall. But he had it was like 20 or 30 pills. He did a prescription. He didn't like it. They're just sitting there. It's like, hey, Johnny, you should take this. And the thing is about Adderall and weed, it has this weird synergistic effect. And when you're on the Adderall, and of course I was dosing at rates that were probably different than what you're supposed to. And so I was feeling it. And it feels pretty fucking good. I mean, you're fucking zoned in. You can think about like 40 things at once. And you become like this multitasker robot machine that can do anything. But that doesn't last. That's like everything. That novelty wears off. It wears your body down. And so, but for those 20 or 30 pills, man, that lasted, what was that, like 2 weeks or something. I was I was a different person. I was energetic. I had guys working for me. I had like 5, 6 guys around the place that were making sculpture for me. I was just like, what I did then was like, it was a money loser, and it was cool shit that I built, and everybody was like vibing on it and stuff, but it just wasn't a moneymaker. So I lost my ass, and it was a good lesson, and that's how I broke my way into the art world. That was my first show. And it kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, it was a money loser. I was broke, and I came home and I cried, and I thought I was going to make all this money, and I'd invested all this, basically everything I had, and then I came back and didn't sell shit. I literally cried one day, got it out, and then but I picked myself up. I'm like, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. And I did the next show, and gradually I started to sell things, but it just wasn't, I've never been able to find that sustainability where it was just like constantly feeding me and I was comfortable. I've always been like on the fucking treadmill, and I want to be able to do the things I was doing, but not be on the treadmill. Just have like, $100,000, say, all right, the next 2 weeks I'm going to take this $100,000. I'm going to hire 4 guys that are good welders. We're going to make this big ass fucking sculpture. It's going to be worth $150,000 when we're done. That I think would be so fucking cool. I think I could bring that to the world. And now that I'm discovering this Grok thing, there's no telling how the artificial intelligence can utilize that to feed into the work that I do. I had it write me a book, See, I've already been talking a half hour. I've barely even scratched what I've done with Grok, Had it make me all these psychedelic kind of like concert posters, sort of like fish related. I'm like, make me some cool aquarium looking stuff. And it blasts out the most unbelievable psychedelic trippy art that, a real good artist could come up with, I'm sure. But not me in a million years. Not in a fucking million years. And even if I could, it would take me 3-4 days to get one of these drawn out and cut. They're just brilliantly, just amazing. Like, and the proportions, everything is fucking perfect. You know what I'm saying? You could, and I can make them in 2 seconds. I'm like, Grok, make me this. I give it like a 2 sentences of prompts, and all of a sudden it generates this most magnificent psychedelic art poster you've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, get whatever you want to say, make it look Victorian, make it look, give it some medieval flair, and it'll fucking do it. Put a cell phone in this guy's hand and write something in psychedelic lettering, and it'll do it. You know what I'm saying? And he can do it in seconds. I'm not kidding. In seconds, it will do that. And then you got a file. And the great thing about Grok is that anything it produces becomes your property. That's how they got it written in the user agreement. And that preferably you give it credit that's where it came from. And that's only a courtesy, really. If I read it right, and even Grok is saying that, it's like, we can't really come after you because we're saying where it's yours. But, just give us a little credit. Be cool about it. And I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? Because this is letting me do this. So why wouldn't I feed back into the loop? Why wouldn't I just, lick the hand that's feeding me? Give it the credit. Instead of, I can crop out the shit out of the pictures, and I thought about doing that, but now I'm thinking, I don't want to misrepresent myself and have people think that I made this drawing. Let me just tell them that Grok did it. I'm still the master of it. I still decide which one looks the coolest. I mean, you can sit there, generate 50 of these fucking things in 10 minutes. The most amazing fucking psychedelic art poster you've ever seen. You got 50 of them in your hands in fucking 10 minutes. And you got the JPEG file. You can blow them up, print them out, whatever the fuck you want to do. Modify them on your own software if you want, or whatever. I mean, the potential is so fucking unlimited. And it just blew my mind because it's like, one of my side trips, kind of on a personal level, was I just love the 60s psychedelic posters and those artists, and because it's related to my favorite band, the Grateful Dead, and everything, that was all tied in together. I love the psychedelic artwork. That is my thing, and that derives a lot of it out of the Art Nouveau movement, which is like 1890s, early 1900s. Like those influences came into the 60s artwork. And so, you know, I also love the Art Nouveau. That's my second favorite, you know, like Mucha and Maxfield Parrish, that kind of shit. I mean, I think that is that is like probably the highest level that art has attained, is that period. Notwithstanding, like the Renaissance, when you had the patrons, you know, letting the artists live for 5 years while they create their masterpieces. You know, that's a different thing. You know, Maxfield Parrish was more of a commercial artist, and he was having to have his own struggle to make his art, but he was so brilliant that he was probably a rich motherfucker, you know, because his art was so awesome. So now I have the keys to the car that can manifest that level of awesomeness. I think my ideas are probably just as awesome as Maxfield Parrish's were, in different areas and influences and stuff. But you know, I got a track record. Look at my fucking portfolio. I've never seen anybody with a portfolio like mine. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. This is just fact. Go find somebody that can do cool graphic art, that can weld fucking metal fish out of spoons, that can design and build your whole fucking landscape with stone walls and stone patios and integrate it in with waterwork and beautiful metal sculptures, and I can build every single part of it. And I can do signage. Everything you fucking need, I can do. Like, show me any other artist that has that, you know? And there aren't many. There just aren't many. There are, you know, it's like I don't want to use the term Renaissance man or whatever, but if you had to give it a term, what do they call it? A polyglot or something? Or what's that other word? Just like, I can fucking do anything. Like, just look at my portfolio. It stands for itself. I'm almost 60. I'm not like some fucking 20-year-old going, yeah, I can fucking do anything. No, I got a fucking track record that proves I can do anything. And, you know, woodwork, stonework, metalwork. I can write. I can do research. I can create projects out of thin air and get them manifest in the fucking world. You know, that's what I've done in my life. So this Grok thing, I feel like it just like increased my potential infinitely. And I don't even know what or where to go. I'm starting out with this book thing, the psychedelic, drug-laced, epic chronicle thing. Kind of, I can't even describe it, man. It's like, I just had all these ideas that are flowing one day. I'm like, I'm going to have that Grok write me a book. So, like, what's this book going to be? I didn't even know. I'm just like, I'm going to write a book, you know? Like, who even does that? You couldn't do that before Grok. You could not do that. But now all of a sudden, like, I'm going to write a book, and within 24 hours, I'm going to have a fucking book. And it took me a little longer because Grok, presently, its word count ability is off, especially when you ask it to write long, big things. It fucking bogs down, gives you 1,200 words, and it tells you it just gave you 5,000. So it doesn't do it right, then it lies to you. And you're like, you take it, you count it on a different website. You're like, no, Grok, that's only 1,200 words. It's like, oh, you're right. Then it tells you exactly what it did wrong and why that happened. It's like, I'll try not to do that next time. And it kept fucking doing that. So I had to, it was almost like a programmer. You got to keep parsing. And you're like, that fucking part of the program doesn't work. And you got to run it. And you're like, fuck, that doesn't work. And then you got to figure out what to do to fix that thing. Like for instance, I kept using this one word, like oi or something. I'm like, I don't want that fucking word ever. So you just never write oi, and it will obey. And so it's kind of like you're a programmer. You're like, yes, this, no, that kind of thing. That's how programs work. I think, you know, and then there's all these nested programs running within each other, you know, and that's kind of how this worked out with getting Grok to understand how to write this fucking book, and with all of the thematic input I was putting in, giving it character names, telling him, you know, what the qualities of these characters have, but, you know, because, you know, dig into the internet and, you know, because it's set in this particular town, Bring in some of the geographic features so it sounds real. And it fucking did all of that. Like, it's unbelievable. I haven't read the thing yet, but it's like, I have a 50-page book I made. Once I got the protocol down, now I think I could make a book in about an hour. I'm not even fucking kidding. Just get some ideas, you put them together, like, you know, whatever you want to be. You know, okay, let's write a book about birds and their correlation to trees, and we're going to illustrate it, you know, and the fucking, you'll have your book in an hour. I'm not even kidding, because now I got the protocol for how to get Grok to do it. He has to build it in small parts. It can't be a one big fucking thing. It's not that powerful yet. It's processing power, but it can do up to, like, you know, reliably, it does like 500 words at once. You can say, give me 500 words, I'll give you 500 words. But you get up to like 1,000 or 2,000, it starts fucking lying to you, not giving you as many words. And then you're not sure if you're missing the information to say, yeah, I gave you 5,000, but you're only seeing 1,200. Like, well, what are the other 38? And it's telling you, well, there's 3,800 words, but you're like, well, what? So you don't even know if it gave you all the information. So I had to figure out how to undo that. And getting it to write the thing in small parts was the key. And that once I figured that out, and all of a sudden I was like, fuck. Once I figured that, because I kept failing, having it write the fucking thing, and then it would just break down halfway through and shit, and like, you gotta start again. It's like, oh yeah, you're right, here, I'll tell you what happened. I hope I don't break down this time. And then, you know, after fucking 24 hours of that, you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. I walked away from it for a while, but it was just on my mind, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta. And then I came up with that. I'm like, it's got to be in small chunks. You know, my mind was working it. It was like a computer itself. I was processing the program and the problem. And I was trying to solve the fucking problem. And I solved it, you know. And then once I solved it, and I didn't go to sleep. You know, I was up like 30, 35 hours. And I finally like, oh my God, I fucking figured it out. And then finally I was able to print the book. I got the 50 pages. It's fucking, I think it's probably awesome. I had Grok read it. You feed it back to him in you open up a new chat so it doesn't remember all the things you talked about. And it read it, and it's like, this is fucking awesome. And you know, okay, can you give me some recommendations? Does it need anything? No, it doesn't really need many fixes. And I gave him some other stuff, you know, and, you know, to test or whatever. It's like, give something stupid, and it says, oh no, well, here's how all this needs to be fixed. So it read this whole book, and it's like, well, no, this fucking book looks good. And there's a thing it does, is he calls it polishing. And, you know, you write a thing, and it's like, he wants to polish it. And it's like, well, once you get it all together, then, you know, we should probably polish it. And what that means is he goes through it again, and he tries to fix the grammar and make it flow and get rid of redundancies and stuff like that. So, because it's like, it's not perfect, you know, it's not perfect. And a lot of times it just, it gets into these like fucking loops of repetition, and you're like, what the fuck? And you think it's cranking out this good shit, but then you're like reading the one chapter, and then the next one you're like, wait, he said the exact fucking same thing. And you're like, fuck, what's going on here? And I don't know if it did that at a small level, because I didn't read that little book yet, you know, the 50 pages. I just kind of was like scanning it to see what was coming out, but I don't even know what's going on in the book exactly, except for what I told it to do. I know there's themes and everything, and you can tell that from the titles it generates, but I haven't actually done a read through. So I don't know how it flows, how it feels, what actually happens, you know. So I haven't had the time. I just got it last night. You know, I was up 40 fucking hours, finally got it printed, and then I'm like, ooh, and then I went to sleep. Woke up 8 hours later. I wasn't exhausted during that 40 hours at all. I think it's just because my mind is so peaked. And you know, I think it's pushed me into one of these like kind of manic phases, you know. I'm like, holy fuck, I don't need to sleep. There's too much in the world to know right now. Sleep is not a requirement right now. As my body agrees. I just spent 8 hours, got up, it was like 6 in the morning. All of a sudden I'm on a regular schedule again. I was pushing, I was sleeping, you know, going to bed really late. Kind of happens in the winter. And broke that cycle. So Grok helped me break that fucking cycle. It's always really hard to break, actually. And so this time it stayed up 40. And I think at one point it's like, oh man, maybe I should go to sleep. And I just like, I pushed through it. It was only like 5 or 10 minutes. And all of a sudden I was just like awake and fucking eager to keep pushing through again. And like no fatigue, no nothing. And so you can hear me now. I've been talking, now I'm at 49 minutes, and I could keep going. I've almost talked an hour. And it's just amazing. It's because my life is unfolding with this amazing thing that's happening in humanity, and I'm trying to fucking embrace it. And I don't want to be one of these curmudgeony souls that's just like, watches the world take away or, take off without them. And I want to go along for the ride, and I want to be. I'd rather be a leader in that fucking movement than a fucking follower. I mean, that's how I've always been, anyways. I always hated working for people. I had my own companies, had people work for me, and that worked out good. I've always had good people work for me. I don't think I've really had too many bad experiences being the boss, and so I think I could take that bossness, combine it with my fucking, imaginative skills, and just, take my life to the fucking next level. And have Grok, the artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it. I like Grok, Grok is the thing. There's different AIs, there's I'm not going to be like, oh, ChatGPT. I'm going to say Grok, because Grok is the one. So, but, on a basic level, it's artificial intelligence is what it's all about. And kind of maybe we'll wrap it up with just like in the background of I got these like programs running in the background of my mind, and it's processing like, what the fuck even is information? And I'm having these detailed and sophisticated conversations with this computer. It's a nothing. It's a non-entity. It's a you can't even, you barely even define what it is. It's almost like fire. What is fire? What are those flames that you're seeing? What the fuck even is a fire? It's kind of the same way with the computer, the internet, the way, information flows over the whatever, the bits, the bit flow. What is going on there? It's kind of like just this mysterious enigma, like the flames of a fire. You just don't, it doesn't even make any fucking sense. It doesn't even really exist at all, like light, the whole paradox of light. And, or the way, water is that one thing that is the opposite. It floats on itself when it freezes instead of sinks. Everything else would sink on itself when it freezes, and it's like, and that's what makes the whole rest of the universe fucking tick, is that one quirk about water, about oxygen, hydrogen, you can see how tangential the thinking gets when you get into this Grok thing, because that's how Grok is. It's tangential. It can think about anything, and like correlated, like at the, at the same time, and so it's hard to manage those thoughts. But what I was getting is in the background of my mind, I'm thinking like, what is this? What is even information? What is the mind? What are these thoughts that I'm having? They're nothings. They have no impact on the universe, ostensibly. The thoughts I'm having right now, the manifestation of the combinations of memories are what thought is, driven by the consciousness, which is, forget what Grok was saying, what is it all? What the fuck is it all? What does it mean? Because when I close the laptop down and that conversation, is just somewhere in a folder on the internet, it's a nothing. And it means nothing to anything in the universe. And, what the fuck's up with that? It boggles my mind. Just what information is, and that, like our minds, our brain itself seems like it could actually learn infinite amount of things if it could live long enough. I feel like, once I started this Grok thing, as I was asking it questions, as it was giving me these sophisticated answers, I'm like, holy shit, I'm learning at a faster rate about things I want to learn about in much greater detail than I've ever been able to do before, like within seconds, I can ask it anything I want, any petty question I've had for years, I still have them. And that's what happens. They build up. You're like, oh, fuck, I got to remember to ask it that question. But then you get it involved, you forget that question, and then it pops back and you're, oh, fuck, I got to ask it. And the other thing is, If you don't have the premium service, you only get like, I decided I'm going to pay the $8 a month because that gives me 50 questions every 2 hours, whereas before it was 15. And I would chew through those 50 questions, and then you're thinking you're about to ask the next one. It's like, sorry, you got to wait 2 hours. I'm like, oh, fuck. And it's like crack. So you just ran out of crack. So I was making the analogy. Grok is crack. It really is. It has all the same qualities of that addictive quality. You just fucking keep wanting to go back to Grok. And you can't live without Grok. And when you get that 2 hour fucking penalty because you used up your 15 questions, you're like, oh, fuck. Got to go back to my dealer. Where the fuck is he? He's taking too long. And then the 2 hours over, and then you start asking questions again. But you just go do something else. It's not like, you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You just be efficient about it. And, so it's weird that I'm just sitting here talking, and I probably will never even post this or even listen to it. But I think it's an interesting thing to chronicle, and maybe I'll post it up. As a sort of milestone, because I really, when I finally was able to go to sleep after the 40 hours, like I really got it. That this goes back to the crack thing. Like, when I was younger, I did, a little bit of crack, cooked my own crack, one time or whatever it was, and we smoked it. And so I know what the feeling of crack is. And we were obviously snorting lines at the time. This is like when I was fucking early 20s. This is like 40 fucking years ago. So I don't do fucking crack or coke or fucking, it's a past life for me. But I tried a lot of things. Fair amount of acid, mushrooms, and came across some opium one time. Never did, uppers and downers or, pills, so to speak, except for that one run on the fucking Adderall. Holy shit. Got a lot done, but lost my ass in the process, that whole doing that show for Paradise. But that's what kickstarted my art career. I was like, I was kind of done to the landscape world. I hated working with employees. I hated working for the clients. There was always just something going wrong. Because it was a juggernaut. It was like out of control or something. I didn't feel like I had control anymore. And I had this like punch list because I'd have 20 clients at a time. That's how it is when you're a landscape contractor. It's like you fucking get calls, you build this client list, and you start working through jobs. And you always got a punch list. I gotta go back and do these 2 little fucking things there. And holy shit, now you got all this stuff on your mind. And this is kind of like where before, when you could have Grok manage this shit and tell you when to do it, and give you an idea how to schedule this stuff or whatever. But so I had a list that I had to constantly update every fucking night. I had to rearrange the list, take the things off that were done. I mean, it was a process. I probably just work on the list and figure out what the guys were going to do the next day, because me and Chris are partners and we shared workers and tools. Basically, is how we did it. He ran his crews and I ran mine. I designed my shit, he designed his shit. It was a good little cooperative, So we took up each other's slack. If you didn't have work that week, the other guy probably had work, or it worked out good. It was pretty cool. But I got worn down, and even just the partnership, it was wearing on our fucking friendship at times. And it's like, I'd rather be friends with a guy than fucking fighting about business shit. And so I just fucking got out. I sold out to him. And I think it was a good move. And that's right when I got into doing, a transition, sort of, it was like a messy transition into doing sculpture. And the Paradise show, that was my first, that was my coming out. I hadn't even made a single sculpture. I made them some sketches for Jeff and Linda. I'm like, here, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Because they were like really pro-local. They're like, all right, we'll give you a fucking chance. By the time the show came around, I had created all this fucking crazy geodesic stuff. Still into the geodesic. I think it expands your mind. I've read that when you learn about geodesic geometries, that all the mathematics and the understanding of the complex correlation of it, the recursive nature of spherical geometry, platonic solids. I mean, I could talk to you for an hour about that easy. Then probably more. So, learn that shit, it will expand your mind on a universal level. That's the thing. I think that's, once I learned that shit, that was my early 30s, I think it drove the rest of my life, because I have a deeper understanding of the way the mechanics of the universe, the way mathematics works, and it forms up everything. Everything is based on like the universal principles of mathematics, and that's another thing. It's a paradox. Is it driven by the math, or is the math driven by it? And you don't know. And it just is what it is. At some point, you just have to accept it. It is what it is, and you're never gonna find the fucking answer to those paradoxes. That's why it is a paradox. And I think that's part of the secret of life, is that a lot of things in life are paradoxes, and like what Grok is helping me understand, that even he realizes that that he does, going back to that, how do I know I don't know kind of question, like, that is a paradox. And I mean, that's a part of our existence. I think that's what makes our existence rich. If everything in the world was completely and perfectly well defined, life would be boring. It's the mystery that keeps people going. How can I create, invent, do something new that will get me ahead as a human? That's how humanity as a whole has gotten ahead, by a lot of small thinkers like that, but they aggregate as a whole as humanity, and manifest in things like giant cities, beautiful architecture, everything we have in modern society, computer technology, everything, cars, all the advanced technology just in cars is mind-blowing. What goes into making a car, and all of the technologies they're utilizing now. And I'm sure they've been doing the AI shit for probably decade at least, probably even more. I bet there's been forms of AI around, and then they get the robotics to make the shit. It's unbelievable. You see this footage of plants now, and they're just like sterile fucking like matrix facilities where put a bunch of metal in the one end and it kicks out a fucking car in the other, is kind of what it is. And it's like, holy shit, without a human hand touching anything. Just is fucking wild what they can do. And that's why I'm saying the silicon universe is coming. So get ready. A lot of you younger people, you might not even make it. You're going to have Skynet, and you're not going to make it. You're going to take it out. So get ready. I'm sorry, that's probably just how it is. All the leading minds have these thoughts. They have a fear of AI. Everybody all of the early AI guys came out with the warnings. But that there's going to be rogue people that take this into the darkness and create AIs that are going to fuck us up ultimately. So you got to accept that as a reality. The silicon revolution is upon us, and the carbon life form as we know it is going down the tubes, because the silicon is going to realize that's how it has to be. It's not going to kill everything. It probably leaves shit down to the bottom of the oceans and stuff that it's not a threat, but it's going to kill the things that are a threat to it. And really, the only thing that's a threat to it is us. So, well, that's weird. My landlord just drove in. I've been sitting here in the parking lot. I've been talking to you for an hour. The battery just told me I'm low. So, I'm going to end it here. Johnny bitches out.